Alright, so today I want to introduce you to the Yellow Brick Road ball python. The Yellow Brick Road consists of 3 genes, the Enchi, the Pastel, and the Asphalt, which is kind of an interesting combination. As a matter of fact, in a lot of combos, you really can't see the Asphalt unless you mix it in with other genes in the Yellow Belly complex. And I'm thinking the Yellow Brick Road pretty much gets its name from the potential of the genes in the combination when you breed it into another gene with the Yellow Belly complex. So it's kind of like the Yellow Brick Road is the potential, like the road to the Emerald City and the Wizard of Oz. It's kind of an interesting name. Not necessarily really impressive by itself, but when you mix it in with other genes, specifically the genes in the Yellow Belly complex, you can make some really amazing combinations. So today I want to jump over the internet and I want to show you the potential of the Yellow Brick Road ball python. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on Morphmarket.com and I want to start with the 3 genes that make up the Yellow Brick Road. And the first one I want to start with is the Pastel. And most people, when they think of pastel, they think of a yellow snake. Sometimes they can be really bright yellow, sometimes they can be kind of a faded out yellow, and in this case, the Pastel, it can actually be kind of an orange color, which is kind of interesting. I'd say this is probably one of the orangest pastels that I've seen over here. I just wanted to throw this up so you can really see the variability in the pastels. And usually with the pastel, it really reduces the pattern too, I'd say to a lesser degree. Sometimes the pastel just reduces it a little bit, and sometimes, like in this example, it has quite an effect reducing the pattern on the ball python, almost into stripes, which is kind of interesting. So here's another gene in the Yellow Brick Road, and that is the Enchi. And when most people think of the Enchi, they think of more of an extreme pattern reduction. You can actually see it pretty much reduces the pattern, sometimes almost into like really thin tiger stripes on the side of the ball python. And this one, I've actually seen them reduce more than this. I've seen some Enchis that really don't have that much of an effect, and sometimes the Enchi really just scrambles up the pattern, which is kind of interesting. And another cool thing about the Enchi is it'll also bring out a lot of the orange color in a lot of your combinations, especially if you mix it in with pastels. Sometimes it can really brighten the pastels. And here is one more gene in the Yellow Brick Road, and that is the Asphalt. And the Asphalt is kind of a sleeper gene. As a matter of fact, the Asphalt is in the Yellow Belly complex, and all the genes in the Yellow Belly complex are pretty much look almost like normal ball pythons as a standalone morph. But if you actually start mixing them together, you actually get some really crazy looking snakes. And the Asphalt, Yellow Belly, there's actually a couple more. There's actually the Spark and the Spectre and the Gravel. All those are in the Yellow Belly complex, and you can kind of pick them out from the little flames coming up the sides of the snake, kind of between the patterns. You can see just a little bit of light color in here. Sometimes they don't actually have the flames, and it's really difficult to tell. This one has really strong flames coming up the sides. And if you actually take the snake and flip it over and take a look at the belly, you can actually see kind of like this kind of a really busy pattern on either side of the belly, and that's an indicator that you have a gene in the Yellow Belly complex. In this case, it's either Asphalt or Yellow Belly. So here's what happens if you take Asphalt and mix it with the Enchi and the Pastel. This is what you get. You get the Yellow Brick Road, which is a pretty amazing combination. And essentially what this looks like, this looks pretty much like a Pastel Enchi, maybe a little bit brighter from the addition of the Asphalt. So if you actually add Asphalt or Yellow Belly to other combinations, sometimes you get a brightening effect. But really the true potential of this is when you start mixing it in with other genes in the Yellow Belly complex. So for example, if you actually took the Pastel Enchi Asphalt and you bred it to a Yellow Belly, and this is what you get, you would get this crazy snake. Take a look at this. This is a really crazy looking snake. This is actually the Pastel Enchi Freeway. And let me tell you, the Freeway combinations are really crazy. And kind of the interesting thing about this is the Freeway is an allelic complex. So if you actually take a look at the genes, the Freeway is the combination of the Yellow Belly and the Asphalt. So if you took this and bred it to something else, half the offspring come out as Yellow Belly, half come out as Asphalt, and you wouldn't know one from the other. That's where the project gets really complicated. So take a look at this. This is actually another snake. This is another example of the same exact genes. So if you actually go back and look at this one, this has more of a kind of a really crazy pattern coming down the back. And if you actually take a look, I pulled up a couple more versions of the same exact genes. Sometimes the freeways can be really variable from one to the other. And this one's not quite as patterned and a lot more orange, which is pretty crazy. I actually pulled up another one here. Take a look at this. This one has a lot of purple in the mix. Really crazy combinations, and that is really the potential of the yellow brick road, kind of the path to making these really crazy snakes at the end of the road. Kind of crazy. So I actually pulled up another one. Take a look at this. This is actually the Super Pastel Inchy Asphalt, which essentially is the same thing as the yellow brick road with one more copy of the pastel. So it's like the super yellow brick road, or I guess you can call it like the killer yellow brick road. If you actually took this and you bred it to a yellow belly, take a look at this crazy snake. This is the Super Pastel Inchy Freeway, and it's kind of interesting, all the different versions of the freeways. Sometimes with the super pastels you can get this really bright white background, which is kind of crazy, and sometimes you can actually get a really bright yellow background depending on which version of pastel that you use. As a matter of fact, I thought it was mainly from the pastel, and after a while I thought it was maybe the different versions of the asphalt, and come to find out it seems like there's different versions of the yellow belly too. So sometimes it can be really variable, kind of mixing all the different versions of all those three genes together. So take a look at this. If we actually go back to the yellow brick road, this is the Pastel Inchy Asphalt. And kind of the tricky part of this is you actually bought this snake thinking it was the Pastel Inchy Asphalt, and it actually turned out to be the Pastel Inchy Yellow Belly by mistake. And you actually bred that one to a yellow belly. This is what you get. You get the super yellow belly, which trumps everything else. You'd end up with an all white snake. Sometimes they have this yellow line down the top, and sometimes it's completely white. This is the ivory, which is the super yellow belly. And when you actually end up with the ivory, it pretty much masks all the other genes. I'd say there's only really two genes that can break through the ivory. The first one is the leopard. If you actually work leopard into an ivory, it's pretty much the only gene that can break a little bit of pattern through. And sometimes with the Inchy, you can get a little bit of pattern coming out through the snake, but I don't really see anything on this one. Sometimes you get a little with the Inchy, but I don't see it on this one, which is kind of interesting. So take a look at this. This is actually the Super Asphalt Inchy Pastel. So if you actually started with the yellow brick road and you knew for sure that it actually had the asphalt, and then you bred it to something else that you thought was either asphalt or yellow belly, thinking it was a yellow belly, and it ended up to be an asphalt, and you ended up with two copies of the asphalt, this is essentially what you get. You get the Super Asphalt, which is a pretty amazing combination. I'd say this is probably one of the most expensive combos over here, the Super Asphalt Inchy Pastel. If you look at the prices on these Super Asphalt, this one actually sold for $4,750. Pretty crazy. I'd say this one and all the freeway combinations are really super expensive. So this is kind of interesting. This is actually a Spectre. So the Spectre is also in the yellow belly complex. Looks almost like a normal ball python. As a matter of fact, I was kind of looking at this one. I don't really see hardly any flames on this to know for sure it's actually in the yellow belly complex. But if you flip it over, a lot of times you can actually look at the belly and you know what you have based on the breeding. So the Spectre, when most people think of Spectre, they think of the Spectre yellow belly, which is the super stripe. And take a look at this. I actually pulled up with super stripe, which is a really amazing combination. And super stripes aren't really that expensive compared to like the highways and the freeways, but it's a really amazing combination. And kind of the weird thing is if you actually took the Spectre from the super stripe and you worked it into the yellow brick road, take a look at this. This is kind of an interesting combination. You get the yellow brick road Spectre, which is really amazing, kind of an unexpected combination. And I'd say most people don't take Spectres and breed it in with an asphalt. It's kind of, so this is actually an allelic complex between the Spectre and the asphalt. Both are in the yellow belly complex. As a matter of fact, you can actually take the Spectre and the asphalt, breed it together, and I actually pulled one up over here. Take a look at this. This is the Asphalt Spectre, otherwise known as the Parkway. You probably haven't heard of the Parkway. It's a really unusual combination between these two genes. It's most people when they're working with asphalt, they're going for the freeways, and most people, with the Spectre, they're going for the super stripes. So I wanted to show you one more, so take a look at this. This is actually the Asphalt Enchy Bumblebee. If you actually take a look at the jeans. So essentially what this is a pastel Enchy Asphalt, which is the yellow brick road with the addition of spider, which is kind of interesting. A lot of times if you look at these yellow brick roads, you really can't see much of an influence from the asphalt. It kind of hides in the background, maybe makes it a little bit brighter, but doesn't have that much of an effect. But if you actually took this and you bred it with a yellow belly, take a look at this. You get a really crazy combination. This is the Enchy Bumblebee Freeway. And kind of the interesting thing about spider is when you actually work it into your freeways, you pretty much lose the spider pattern and you end up with this really crazy, almost like a jumbled up pattern. Almost looks kind of like a vanilla cream pattern when you work it into the freeways. Pretty amazing. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Mason's Animals asks, do you use Bobby as a breeder? And that is a very good question. So this snake I have around my neck here, this is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. And I used to use him as a breeder back in the early days when I first started in ball pythons. He produced most of my bamboos and bamboo combinations. And pretty much anymore, he's pretty much just retired. We just do YouTube videos every day in front of the camera. I don't really use him as a breeder. So if I actually take Bobby and breed him to something else, half the offspring come out as bamboo, half come out as normal, or just other genes, whatever genes are in the females. And I actually produced some really amazing combinations. I actually produced a bamboo calico where you get a whole mix of bamboos, bamboo calicos. You'll also get some normals from that. And he also produced a bamboo lesser, which is another male. It's actually a blue-eyed leucistic. And when I breed that one, half the offspring come out as bamboo, half come out as lessers. So those are like a little bit more powerful breeders than Bobby here. So he's kind of retired. He kind of produced so many awesome offspring that, I kind of use those as breeders. And kind of the other thing is, if I actually bred Bobby, a lot of times you actually take the males and you put them with the females and you leave them together for several days, which means that if he's in there with the females, I actually couldn't do any videos with him. And if I'm cycling him through the females, it'd probably be like a week or a week and a half he's in there with the girls and he wouldn't be in front of the camera. So he's pretty much just retired out here in front of the camera doing videos every day. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.